Thanks, Jennifer. I first encountered displays that pop at PNLA this summer in Victoria, and I was very impressed with Lisa's presentation. Lisa works as a teen librarian at the Burlington Public Library in Washington State, and all of her bulletin boards were so practical. They were very innovative, they were different, and I thought to myself, oh, I wish I'd had this presentation when I was doing bulletin boards. And so I thought that other people would enjoy them as well. And so I called her up and said, I pleaded a little bit, and then she was willing to say yes and share her presentation once again. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Lisa, who has a lot of good information to share with us. Lisa, the mic's all yours.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone, and I appreciate you joining us this morning to go through this presentation about bulletin boards. And depending on whether you've ever had to, face an empty bulletin board, this is just, I kind of approach this in terms of trying to encourage people to not maybe be so fearful of it if they've kind of felt that before. So as we go through, we'll kind of discuss some of those ideas. Again, please let me know if you have ideas or things that you've experienced that you'd like to share with the group, because I think that's the most helpful thing, is just sharing, and that's the way I see this, is just sharing ideas. So the first slide discusses some of the words that you might think of if someone said, okay, here's an empty bulletin board, I want you to fill it. And depending on whether you have an idea to do that or not, you might be horrified versus inspired. And I've felt all of these things. How many of you are currently responsible for doing bulletin board displays in your library? Just kind of curious. Is anyone currently doing any? Kate and Diane. Okay. It can be kind of intimidating. So you've got this blank bulletin board. And so I wanted to start at the beginning and just kind of share some of my experiences. This was the very first bulletin board that I did in the children's area, and I really hated it. It felt like I was putting myself out there and everyone could see it and they knew it was mine, even though that was not the case. Oh, I'm going to back up real quick. Some of the reasons I did not like this bulletin board was because I painted the letters. They were inconsistent. You can see some of I went ahead and filled in some of the circular letters because I was kind of touching up a mistake on one or two, and so I just did it to all of them so it would look a little more consistent, but that was my first attempt. The next board I did, I used a quote, or I just used the phrase about never judging a book by its movie, because so many movies are made on books. And thinking about how you use materials and how you can get creative with that, thinking in terms of movies, I just stopped by the local theater, knew that they had these leaders on the front of their movies for the previews, etc., and just asked if I could have one, and they were more than happy to give me a huge roll that I still have. This one I really enjoy using quotes, and I saw this kind of, first the quote really spoke to me. I really think that's true on so many levels, and then I found this graphic that just kind of this outline of a father and child, and I really like that. So knowing that I had all the paper I need, I just got an overhead projector and cast that image up and painted it. And with the quote, it made for a really nice display. This one we used last summer for the summer reading program, and I wasn't a huge fan of some of the graphics, so I just thought big picture, and had come across I came across this promotion or this artwork for something entirely different, and I just took aspects of it and again use the overhead projector and some paint and put it up on the board and kind of tailored it so it fit the summer reading theme. And so I would encourage you, as whether you're looking through magazines or out and about and you see something that has components to what you're looking for, go ahead and just start a file. I do have a file of ideas that I've used, or some I haven't yet. And keep in mind that paint is really cheap, so that's always a good thing to use. But we fortunately were able to get a Cricut die cut machine, which I'm going to back up real quick. Let's see. Do I have it? Right here, you can see that I didn't paint these letters. I actually used the Cricut for this, and it allowed me to create consistent lettering. It was fast and made it really simple and a nice look. So I use paint a lot, but I also use the Cricut. Again, looking for ideas and using those as inspiration for ideas for a board. This was a spring bulletin board, and I was looking through an Upstart catalog and I saw this image of the dog hanging onto an umbrella, and I really like that. But again, when you're dealing with a flat bulletin board, I always try and think of in terms of how can I make this kind of come off the page in a sense. And at first I thought, oh, I'll just get an umbrella and cut it in half and it will hold its shape. Just so you know, it doesn't. It really fell flat. So I ended up just using paper, shaping it and stuffing it with just some scrap paper. And the Cricut die cut machine gave me the letters, and it was very simple and quick. And so often because I work part-time and the other responsibilities I have, this has to be a quick display that I don't have a lot of time necessarily to spend on coming up with ideas or creating them. So time and money is always in short demand. This one just shows a little bit closer how I kind of shaped that umbrella. And again, I like the graphic from the Upstart catalog, so I borrowed that and used the overhead projector and painted that up there. On this one, again, I really like the quotes. I like this one in particular, and I used it to create a bulletin board with I'm going to back up here. I apologize. This was in a little bit different format, and so I'm just kind of adapting it for this presentation a little bit so it doesn't flow quite at the same. In this one, I used the quotes. I created a pocket here on the left side of the board, and I made the tissue flowers. And when I had that up in the springtime, again, I thought as I approached summer and we're getting ready for summer reading, it's busy, I didn't have a lot of time, and I thought, okay, I'm just going to change or put a header up there and we'll carry it over into summer reading. So we just put up Catch the Reading Bug, and we're good to go for a couple more months. Let's see, I think the next one. Yeah, so I just picked up a inexpensive tablecloth. It was kind of a blue jean material and kind of fashioned a pocket there. And later, looking at this picture, I could see where adding just a few metallic details and maybe some fabric paint to show stitching would have enhanced it. And but I would make note of that, put it in my file, and just remember that for the future and go on. I learn from all of my bulletin boards that I make. There's mistakes that I make, and I try to cover them up so people don't notice. This one I used Pigeon's book, and so I just kind of started with that idea of the book, Don't Miss the Bus, and this is the beginning of the school year. So I put him up in a tree there, just made out of crumpled bulletin board paper. And then using yellow poster paper, kind of that heavy cardstock paper from the craft store, I used about 3 sheets and just kind of eyeballed it and just put them together to create the shape of the bus. And then adding paper details, I give it a little bit more of an idea that it is a school bus. And then I was picking up my lunch one day at the grocery store, and I saw these big black plastic bowls, and I thought, those would look really great as wheels possibly, because I kind of been trying to brainstorm what would make some good wheels that were maybe 3-dimensional. So these were really simple. They were more than happy to give me 2 of them. I just used some pins and stuck those there. Kind of made for a good 3-dimensional aspect to the display. And then you'll notice the children's faces on the bus. As much as possible, I like to personalize it with photos. And at our library, we do take photos of children when they get their library card. We call it First Card Photo. And we do obtain permission from the parents to display their photos. We only use first names in that display. But we have the permission to use the photos then on file, and then I'm able to use them whether in displays or if we do monthly reports for the city and we have a great picture of a child with a particular activity or someone who has come in to get their card, and we can kind of showcase them and permissions granted. You'll notice this bulletin board in particular is not square or rectangular, but it has kind of this odd shape. And I don't want to say it's the bane of my existence, but it is kind of this extra board that I'm trying to fill at different times, and it's a little bit out of sight, out of mind sometimes. So I was down in Seattle. If any of you have gone shopping in Seattle, it's very, very fun, and they have these great window displays. And I saw the one display where they had taken these beautiful silk ties and fashioned a tree with a cloud, and then they had a mannequin displaying the clothing. And I really liked what they had done there with the ties. So I knew that at the thrift store they sell a big, huge bag of ties, I think for $5 a bag. So I stopped by and picked up one, and there were enough ties in there that I was able to try this idea out and try and create a tree here and the cloud. Quotes here, I used this little piece of a song, a children's song, and for the winter time, just kind of keeping in mind with that, I used some, I believe this is just white tissue paper along the bottom stapled up to create the base for the snow. And then we have nylons that created the branches. I was able to find a few dried leaves outside still. Here we have some clip art that was printed, and popped those guys in the trees and just painted on some snowflakes there, some spots. So I go back so you can see how the nylons actually kind of give a sense of branches there. And then I believe I had some reeds and that type of thing left over from the summer reading display with the flowers that I had made out of tissue paper. So I just kind of stuck those in. And then also putting some questions up, or just having that where the kids, and when the kids come into the children's area and they're with their family or on their own, they can read these questions to each other or kind of look, interact with the bulletin board display a bit. After a visit to San Francisco, we had gone to the museum down there, and they had these great posters in the museum store. And the one on the left shows these circles, and when you're actually looking at it, they actually appear to be moving. And so I really like that, and I really like these types of posters where you're looking at these optical illusions where you're trying to decide what it is. So real simple, I put some paper up on the bulletin board, popped the posters up, and then found a fun quote, and then just kind of a play on words with the Cricut die cut. I cut out 2 different colors for the word illusions, and again, just a play on words there. And so I was able to use the Cricut for the lettering, made it really fast and simple. And then questions to engage children to interact with the display, to kind of guide parents to, and we have, families standing there looking at the bulletin board together. And I think that's a really important part of it, trying to engage parents with their children with opportunities to look at the world around them and realize that reading is an important part of that. So there was the poster. Can't really see the effect. Pretty cool though. Again, I've mentioned in the past I like the 3-dimensional component to bulletin board displays. And so for this summer reading theme, Getting Creative, I just thought about the word creative and thought, okay, I'm just going to break it down letter by letter. And of course I had to have a quote. So each letter I broke down in different ways that I thought was creative, and this will vary, depending on your experiences. So I painted the letter C. The letter R, I tried to fashion like a hand signing the letter R out of just some old brown, I wouldn't call it bulletin board display paper, but we have this huge roll of brown paper that we never use. And I try to find uses for that as much as possible. Here we used a semaphore flag for the letter E. I had a number of even adults coming up asking about that, and it was fun to direct them to the encyclopedia and other books, encouraging them to take a look and see what other letters are with the flag system for that. Here the letter A, I just found kind of a fun graphic. Some calligraphy. I used a slinky for the letter I. And the letter V I made out of those first card photos. So when the kids can come in and take a look and say, hey, there's me, or there's my friend or my cousin, it's always a lot of fun. For the letter E, I just took some packaging stuff for gifts and just kind of plopped it up there. But, take a look around you, things that you see every day. You try to look at them in a different light, and you might be able to use them for a display in a way that you hadn't thought of before. This is one blog that I follow in particular. Scott Ginsberg, he's very prolific in his posts and very interesting. And one day I saw he had posted about being a mental omnivore, and this was based on an article in a Rolling Stone magazine, and how Robert Downey Jr. referred to himself as being a mental omnivore. And that idea kind of stuck with me about, mentally looking around you and kind of not necessarily consuming, but looking around you ready to use anything at the ready, and the idea of casting about for content. So if you think in terms of being a mental omnivore, the article, it states that it'll triple your interestingness and inspire your creativity, build a bottomless reserve of diverse ideas to fuel your daily endeavors. And that really struck me, and I thought, it sounds lofty, but I can apply this even to bulletin boards. And this is a bulletin board that I drove past constantly, up and down the boulevard when I go from one town to the other. And it was very graphic. You've got this silhouette. You've got these little speech bubbles, and I know what two of them are, but does anyone know what UGC stands for? I never actually looked it up. Any ideas? I'm not sure. I need to check into that, I guess. But, you know, I saw this bulletin board every day. I'd always look at it. And so I decided I'm going to try and use that as a display. So I found a graphic that would give you a sense of a crowd or an audience. And this is what I came up with as my display. I kind of used that light and dark blue graphic in the background. I used the black silhouette, and then the idea that everybody reads every day. You know, when you have a child, if you've had young children and they start learning how to identify, you know, McDonald's, and you're horrified. You're thinking, oh no. But they do. They're constantly looking around them in the world and making sense of it. And they learn to read oftentimes in that way. Things that we don't even realize that they're reading. And so casting about, you know, if you might come up with an idea based on a big bulletin board off the side of the road. I like to use, I have lots of fond childhood memories of books and different things. In this particular one, I really like Sindak's Chicken Soup with Rice poems. And so I created, by using the overhead projector, I put the poem and the picture up and then kind of condensed it down into this one sheet of paper. That, you know, that brown roll of paper that we have just setting aside, not being used. I used it for this, and this is on that one particular bulletin board that's kind of awkward. And so I decided I'm just going to create one for every month, each month of the year, and then I can pop it up there, and it's not going to take up my time any more than necessary. So you can see some of the other months that I've made. Just takes a few minutes to swap it out. So, you know, keeping in mind, keep it as simple as possible, but also something that you enjoy looking at. When you, each time you look at your bulletin board display, you don't want to be just, you know, cursing it. You want to enjoy it. So here is a Upstart ad for a poster that, and it's kind of blurry. I apologize for that, but on some level I thought, oh, that would make a cute display. So I tore that page out and I put it in my file, and I ended up trying to create a display in the teen area. I used cellophane paper and then colored light bulbs. And I thought maybe the colored light bulbs would have more of an impact than I think they did. They were pretty dark, and but I have them setting aside if I ever want to use them again in a display. So it was okay. I wasn't completely satisfied with the end result, but I think it made for a nice display anyway. So I'll just emphasize that not every display will be, you know, 100% your favorite, but go ahead and try things. I mean, you're not going to lose by trying something different, taking a chance with it. This is a website that I use quite a bit, and it's very simple and very effective. It's called blockposters.com. And you can see in this first photo, it's a photo that if you want to increase the size of it, you upload it. It takes a very short time. And then on the right side, you can see where it has these lines indicating what size you want to change it to. And you can have each square on that photo represent an 8.5 by 11 sheet. And you can indicate 3 by 6 or 2 by 4, and it is very helpful in creating a larger display. Here I took some book art that was very graphic. I liked the look of it, and that teen bulletin board display I used this artwork, uploaded it, and then it created this for the bulletin board. It was very simple, very fast, but also very graphic. In the teen display area, I attended, in this particular event, I attended a homecoming football game, and I was taking photos of the football players and the cheerleaders and the crowd, and coming back and putting these photos together. Again, this is an opportunity for the kids or the teens in our area to come in and have a sense of ownership in the teen area, look at pictures where they know people, they might even see themselves. I know one of our pages here, he came up and he was able to find himself in the audience, and he thought that was pretty cool. So using photos of patrons is a great way to create interest and make it feel like their own. Here I have 4 photos that I took with our little digital camera, and using the block poster website, I was able to enlarge them. I think I used a 2x4 setting, and it made a nice large photo. I'll point out on the left side the 2 girls standing together. I'll just mention that I think this is a good opportunity to kind of create a positive experience. These 2 girls are typically in the past have been, if you have like a list of problem kids that come in and kind of are disruptive and that type of thing, you're always contacting them, asking them to be quiet, warning them that they might have to leave if they don't change their behavior and that type of thing. And I saw them come in, and I thought, you know, I'll find out if I can take their picture so they can be part of the display and make a positive interaction. And that's what I did, and the girls were really excited. You know, even a couple days later they came in with their friends and they were showing them their picture. And so, you know, if you're able to incorporate a positive experience with your patrons, I think that's great. We also have a photo of one of our older patrons, and she was more than willing to pose. We have a great family shot, and then we have a little guy over on the far right. He was adorable. He had come in his little frog costume and posed against our playhouse. His mom later asked if she could have that part of the display when we took it down, so we wrote her name on the back, and they got a great souvenir from that experience. Does anyone know who the Flying Tomato is or what it is? Any snowboarders? Oh, we've got someone who does. Yeah, we've got a snowboarder who is referred to as a Flying Tomato. And I found this graphic, again, Upstart Catalog. This is actually a shot of the page from the Upstart with this poster of a snowboarder, and I just made some notes. You can see them off to the right. And Shaun White is a well-known snowboarder, and I thought, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do with it, but I set it aside. And then I came across these really graphic pieces of art that someone creates. Well, here's the website, Everything Art. And they take photos, whether it's of celebrities or if you want to send in your own photo, and they do this real graphic cartoon stylized effect, and then they put these little thought bubbles. And I came across a number of celebrities. There's Brett Favre, and here's Ben Wallace and Madonna. And I took them and I thought, I wonder if the kids would be able to recognize them. And so I ended up creating this who's who and who's reading what, taking books that I thought would be obvious connections to make. So let's see, the Extreme Snowboarding would link to Shaun White. Let me see, Are You Experienced is the title, and try to link that to Jimi Hendrix. So doing that, that was just a little side thing that I did, but it tied into the bulletin board directly so they could see the graphics. And I changed the little thought bubbles so they would relate to reading gee, I really wanted to make that story mine instead of, I believe her song was referring to a girl. So using those, I just kind of changed them up to refer to literary components and then tried to have fun with it so the kids or the teens could interact with it. And filling out the quiz, they could submit it, and I had a prize for whoever got the most right. It was fun. Again, more inspiration, these really graphic visuals. I set those aside for ideas later. This is a fun website, Posterize Yourself, and the website is down below. But again, it's really simple. Upload a photo, and you can change the effect with some of these kind of iconic effects. Here's my puppy Tillman. I posterized him, but it was very simple. Just you have your photo, upload it, and it comes out the other end. For the teen area, I used a book called Post Secrets. You know, Post Secret can be funny, kind of shocking, but it's where people are invited to send in a postcard and share a secret. And people feeling that this is a rather anonymous format, share some pretty shocking secrets. So, you know, I put up just real simple, I put up what's your secret. I put a few postcards from the book, I photocopied them, and then encouraged teens to share their secret, anonymously of course. And we got a few. Here it's a 14-year-old boy who still has a stuffed animal, even his Elmo. So that's just, you know, okay, a 14-year-old boy's maybe a little embarrassed, but he still has his stuffed animals. This one on the right was a little bit more serious. It says, in front of everyone, I always have a smile on my face, and then in front of no one, I sit and cry of what I'll never be. So that's actually pretty serious, but these are, you know, those are someone's thoughts and feelings about themselves, and they're able to share it at their library. That's pretty powerful. So allowing teens to create the display in different ways. This was just, you know, I didn't have an idea for a display in particular, so I thought, okay, let's allow them to kind of create that visual, and just put up the letters Teen Mural Project, and we ended up getting 4 submissions. But some of them were pretty involved, and everyone got recognized, and it was fun. This one is titled What You're Reading, and after visiting a local 6th, 7th, and 8th grade classes at a local school, after sharing books thinking that they would enjoy, I then invited them to share with me or the library what books that they would recommend for other kids their age, and just left them with a sheet, and they filled that out and used their feedback as part of that display. Again, using photos and quotes from people directly that we have here in our library. We invited, this particular month was National Library Month, and we just took photos of people using the library and asked them what they appreciate about their library. And it was very quick and easy. We actually used this on a slapboard display out in our lobby. People really enjoyed that. Again, these are just some little peeks at some of the in my file that I set aside for ideas down the road. Things that are really graphic jump out at me. This style of art, kind of this graffiti-looking lettering, kind of strikes a chord. And so there is, I mean, you can almost find anything you want online now. This particular website is called Graffiti Creator, You put in a phrase or a name or whatever, and they'll make it look very graffiti-like. The next slide is at Cool Text Creator, and for the WLA, where the theme was No Library is an Island, I put that in as an example, and you can see the neon appearance of the lettering. Very simple. Again, you can then print that out. If you don't have a Cricut die cut machine, or to try and paint that would be kind of hard to get that same effect. You can save the image. You could upload it in the block poster website. You could to enlarge it, or you can just print it out, on 8.5 by 11 and use it that way. Some more things that I have in my file. Here was an image that's very graphic. It had letters. Does anyone have anything that they think of when they see this image that they might use use in a display that they would use it for?
What words form your character? Something like that? Just putting something. Just what spells you out? It just looks like spelling.
Right, definitely. Yeah, that's a great idea. I think initially when I saw this, I was thinking along the lines of like a poetry, maybe poetry month. But yeah, I like the idea that you mentioned of, how do you, what makes you, what creates you, and to spell yourself out. I think that sounds like a lot of fun. So then that led me to the website. Many of you probably have heard of Wordle by now. It's where you upload particular words and phrases, and it orientates the words at different angles and colors and fonts, and makes a really great image of a group of words. Here's some examples. This was the Gettysburg Address. So words that are used more often are larger and stand out more.
Connections. How do things translate through time?
Again, just some random graphics that I put in the file.
Or parodies?
Any ideas on this one, how you might use it?
What can you do with parodies? Explain that for teens. Diane looks like she's taping something. Explore character?
Definitely.
That's a good one.
Parodies. Yeah, spoofs. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Exploring character. Yeah. And these are all character is a huge issue for teens, especially at that time where they're trying to discover who they are. So it can be a fun one. This is a website called Hero Factory, and so again, maybe along those lines of discovering who you are or who you picture yourself to be, your alter ego. Kids have their avatar. Is that what that's called? But how would they represent themselves in kind of this cyber world? This would be fun if you wanted to kind of share people on your staff. You could make your staff members different superheroes and kind of let them kind of fashion and create their own, and then make a display. Get to know your librarians.
I have to read it.
It might be, well, hopefully it'd make them a little more approachable, or who knows. But definitely if staff were willing to volunteer for that, and it could be fun. Yeah. With children's books, again, Chicken Soup with Rice, I really like Miss Nelson is Missing. And this image of Miss Nelson's alter ego, I'm forgetting her name. Oh, Viola Swamp. That would be kind of a fun character to use for an advice column, maybe. Again, this is another graphic that from where the wild things are. It's in my file. I'll probably use it at some point in the future. So I had this piece of clip art in my file, and I thought, you know, just a beautiful kind of winter image. And I had it in my file for about a year, and just this winter in the children's area, I was able to create a display. It didn't turn out, of course, exactly like the original. I'm going to back up real quick. But you can see how the top part of the sky is almost black, and then the twilight lower is blue, and then you've got these beautiful shadows cast. And I thought for about 5 minutes about how I would create these trees and the shadows and the edge of the snow and everything. I thought it's just too much time. So I thought I would just go with what really struck me, which was the colors, and I just got some rolls of wrapping paper and used that to extend across the back, because I didn't have these colors in particular in bulletin board paper. So I got 3 of those, and with the white along the bottom, and then some foam snowflakes at the dollar store for $1, and put some letters up and tried to tie it into the books, and I ended up being really happy with it. So yeah, again, you know, use inspiration, things to inspire you, but it doesn't have to necessarily look exactly like the first product. This is not my bulletin board, but it is one that I came across because I do look online for ideas, and some are very specific to maybe a classroom where you have 30 kids and there's each of their little products up on the board. But this one in particular, I thought this would be very doable in a library. It looks like they had a couple of kids create pockets in their own artwork, their own walk-it, and put those in the little pockets there. But to put up actual clothing, a real easy, inexpensive way to create a display. Ties into some literature for children. Discussing different backgrounds or different materials that you can use for your bulletin board. Bulletin board paper is, you know, in the long run, fairly inexpensive. You could use burlap from the fabric store, comics. Right now I'm currently collecting comics so I have enough to actually use as a backdrop, and then I'll find something to, probably maybe a graphic that I create using black paper so it stands out from the rest of the comics, and then some little comic like a speech bubble and something tying into literature. Here's a bunch of license plates, and I came across this image when I was looking for something else, and I thought that could possibly create a kind of cool display. So I checked further, and there is a license maker online, so you could type in something, a phrase, and you can specify what state. So this was kind of fun. You could specify, you know, California, Texas, and you can put in a phrase that, you know, use these personalized license plates. Sometimes you sit there and you're trying to figure out what they say. So that would be a really fun one for kids to try and figure out. You could put book titles, clues to a book character, but probably a couple different ways you could go with that, and it could be a lot of fun. This is so that idea of casting about for content. So I had gone to a local art museum here in Skagit County, and this was a display or a sculpture that someone had created using egg cartons. And I thought, you know, sometimes you see art and you think, oh boy. And this was one of those moments. But then I thought, well, that's interesting. That was an interesting idea to use egg cartons in that way. And I thought, could you possibly use an egg carton as a backdrop on the bulletin board? And I suppose you could. And again, for about 5 minutes, I thought about collecting egg carton trays like that, or going to the egg farm and asking for egg trays. And I thought, yeah, I don't think it's worth my time. But it did make me, the egg carton, when I put it up there, did make me think in terms of like a Tetris type, just in terms of the game Tetris, I guess. And then so I started looking at if there were any like Tetris type fonts out there. These were a couple that kind of maybe fit that, but not exactly. And then I saw this this clip art, or not clip art rather, but an ad, and I started thinking, okay, I was kind of stuck on the idea of Tetris and the squares and the shapes. And so again, this goes in my file, and I have no idea where I'm going with it. But then I ended up thinking, okay, I'm going to bag the idea on the egg cartons, but I stuck with that Tetris idea. And I just ended up cutting colored paper into squares, stapling them up to give that effect. And here we have everything falls into place when you read. And ended up with that as my display, starting with an egg carton. So you can never be quite sure where you're going to end up, but I was happy with that one. Another Upstart ad or poster. I've not made a bulletin board yet with it, but I really like the idea, and I could see where this could be very three-dimensional. You could have a clothesline, you could have little pom-poms for their hats, little feathers, and it's just looks like it would be a real easy, fun display. So I encourage all of you to look about you, see what is around you, and think about different ways that you could use these materials to create,
what we do have
whether it's a bulletin board or anything.
We will capture this.
These are some of the resources. I'm not sure if you're able to. Carolyn, are they able to print
had to hopefully know about
any of the
list.
screens or the slides from this presentation?
Copy down Lisa's. She has her contact down at the very bottom. Copy it down and ask her to send it to you if you're not on the first Tuesday's list. But I will send it out.
Okay, that would be great.
Okay, and Jennifer has something. She says if we email the entire PowerPoint, we could post it to Northwest Central. So that would be good. That's okay. Are there any questions? Do people have any ideas they'd like to share or questions?
Okay, thank you.
I want to say thank you once again. I got some great ideas you've added to it since August. Some cool ideas. Yes, indeed. I recognize the new ones. So we'll give people a chance to type in things.
Okay.
We'll give you about 30 seconds to type if you'd like to type, or if you'd like to say something and you have a headset, go ahead and click on your voice box, I guess, to activate yourself down at the
little bit
bottom
there.
Corner and ask.
Thank you.
Lisa, a question. We'll give you a time. It looks like there's some typing going on, so I'll just wait until that shows up. Andrea likes it. She was very inspired. Is it inspirational? Nancy says it's a good job. Lots of good information. I like the three-dimensional and using found items. To me, that was a good idea. Another thank you. Very useful. Okay. Got lots of people who had some great, good ideas.
And Yakima Nation, how many of you were viewing this today? We're glad you could make it.
Well, they're typing that in. I would just like to do a plug for next month. I noticed that our presenter for next month is here. And Yura, do you have a mic? And would you be willing to tell us what you're going to be doing? I don't know if you have a mic. Hello? Can everyone hear me? if you would come a little closer, we can. That's better. Thank you.
Is that better? I'm from the Washington Talking Book and Braille Library, and so next month we'll be talking about some of the new things that we're doing at the library, which is designing instructional programs for our patrons on how to download books through the National Library Service for the Blind and Physically Handicapped BARD website. So we're trying to reach out to public libraries to get support, since a lot of our patrons in other parts of the state can't come into the library to use our computers. So just teaching librarians in public libraries how to download so then they can help our patrons. So that will be next month.
Okay, and that actually, when you think about it, we have a lot of shared patrons. A lot of people, you know, with macular degeneration, or people who have been our patrons for years, all of a sudden their eyesight gets worse and worse. So we have a lot of shared patrons, and I think it's a good idea for us, anyone who deals with people, next month will be good. Okay, any other things? Any other questions? Comments? I see Yura is typing. So again, we will take a screenshot of this last, and I will send this out over that. And I guess if there are no questions, I see, like I say, let's see what Yura is saying. She says, thank you, great presentation. She just started helping with her bulletin board and has some great ideas. Jennifer, did you have anything else you wanted to say or share?
Thank you everyone for attending, and we look forward to seeing many of you next month. And if you have ideas for First Tuesday presentations, please let Carolyn or myself know, and we'll be happy to consider those. Thank you everyone.
Thanks for everyone attending.